Well, hello again, everybody. Please continue to enjoy your breakfast, but we do have a full program today, so we would like to get the program moving. My first order of business is I would really like to extend my appreciation to Bar Harbor Wealth Management for sponsoring this event. This is not the first time they've sponsored this event. They've been very, very supportive of the Chamber. A number of their team are here today, including Jason Edgar, President, and Maureen Kimball, Senior Vice President. So please join me in showing our recognition to Bar Harbor Wealth Management. We do have some pleasant responsibilities this morning. We are recognizing two individuals, our Police Officer of the Year and our Firefighter of the Year. This is something that we've done for the past several years, and it's a great partnership with Concord PD and Concord Fire Department. So we are going to make those presentations now. So first, on behalf of the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce, it is our honor to recognize Evan Q. Christie as the 2023 Police Officer of the Year. A few words about Officer Christie. He joined the Concord Police Department as a police officer on July 12th of 2020 and graduated from the 183rd session of the New Hampshire Police Academy in December of 2020 and was assigned to the Patrol Division. Prior to joining the police department, he worked as a police dispatcher at Worcester Polytech Institute and graduated in May 1919 from Assumption College in Worcester with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Criminology. In September 2022, Officer Christie received a letter of commendation for displaying high quality and professionalism in the performance of his duties. The commendation stemmed from a motor vehicle stop where the rear license plate was reported stolen in the town of Goffstown, and the vehicle had been reported stolen a week prior in the town of Londonderry. Officer Christie arrested the driver and subsequently recovered methamphetamine from his pants pocket. Officer Christie observed that the interior of the vehicle had a substantial amount of power tools and electronic devices. He would later obtain a search warrant to recover the tools and devices from the vehicle as they were suspected stolen property. In August of 2022, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, Officer Christie, along with other police officers, was dispatched to the area of Eagle Square on North Main Street for a reported shots fire. The caller reported to dispatch that he had just witnessed a male get shot in the chest by the clock tower. Responding officers located the victim and observed that he had sustained 2 gunshot wounds. Officers began life-saving techniques while waiting for witnesses in the early minutes upon the arrival of the scene. The information that Officer Christie was able to obtain was critical for the Criminal Investigations Division, which arrested the suspect a few days later on numerous felony charges. There are examples, and certainly this is not a complete portfolio of Officer Christie's dedicated and professional efforts over the past year. Officer Christie is described by his commanders and supervisors as a hardworking, calm, reliable, strong investigation skills, technically proficient, and always willing to take on additional responsibilities. Not long ago, a citizen wrote to the Concord Police Department asking that we thank Officer Christie for his assistance on a call for service involving her elderly father with dementia. She described how the call was successfully resolved and went on to describe Officer Christie as kind, respectful, thoroughly professional, and an officer who clearly has an understanding of dementia and the dynamics of dealing with this dreadful illness. Officer Christie is being recognized as an exceptional police officer who represents the City of Concord and its fire department in the highest traditions. His service to our citizens has been no less than outstanding. Officer Christie's attitude toward his work is highly commendable, and he reflects the qualities that make him stand out and receive the award of Police Officer of the Year. Please recognize Officer Christie.
Thank you, Bob. to the chamber for putting on the event, all the hard work everybody does at the Concord Police Department. Thank you, Chief Osgood, and all the hard work that all you guys do for the city of Concord, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we will recognize the Firefighter of the Year, Battalion Chief Derek Kelleher. Battalion Chief Derek Kelleher was appointed to the Concord Fire Department in July of 2000, having previously served several other New Hampshire fire departments and in emergency medical service providers. Over the past 22 years, he has been promoted through the ranks from firefighter to lieutenant, captain, and his current position of Battalion Chief, commanding Battalion Number 1. Outside of the Concord Fire Department, Battalion Chief Kelleher is a senior staff instructor at the New Hampshire Fire Academy and has positively impacted countless careers, teaching others the art of firefighting and highly technical rescue skills across numerous disciplines. He is also a rescue specialist with the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Massachusetts Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue Team. Battalion Chief Kelleher has been deployed across the country with Massachusetts Task Force 1 in response to numerous significant disasters and has continuously used his training and networking to facilitate positive change within the Concord Fire Department. As the department's technical rescue program manager, he works tirelessly to ensure the department has the most current equipment and training to operate within the current standards of the ever-evolving world of technical rescue. Battalion Chief Kelleher has also assumed a leadership role in developing and securing grant funding for the department's emerging swift water rescue team, which was recently recognized by the New Hampshire State Fire Marshal's Office as a resource which may be deployed statewide and beyond. He further served the local community and beyond by assisting for many days at the New Hampshire Army National Guard's Concord COVID-19 clinic, delivering vaccinations to countless New Hampshire residents. In serving on countless department committees, as an evaluator on hiring and promotional assessments, as an executive board member of the Concord Fire Officers Association Local number 3195, Battalion Chief Kelleher has dedicated his career to improving the Concord Fire Department in every way he can. Battalion Chief Kelleher is widely respected by his superiors, his peers, and most importantly, the fire officers and firefighters under his command as a leader and a mentor. Throughout his distinguished career serving the city, the state of New Hampshire, and the country, Battalion Chief Derek Kelleher has indeed brought great credit to the Concord Fire Department and the city of Concord. As such, we honor him as Firefighter of the Year.
It certainly is an honor to be standing here today for this recognition. However, I would not be here if it wasn't for the amazing men and women that I work alongside day in and day out. Also, I'd like to thank you all that have and continue to support the Concord Fire Department. Thank you.
I have the honor of introducing our speakers this morning. Which is typical of both these gentlemen, they provide me with a very bare bones bio. So I'll start with our Mayor Boulay has been a member of the City Council in the city of Concord.
People know us.
You do this to me every year. So Mayor Boulay is going to make the presentation, and Thomas Bell is going to assist him in technical details. Mayor?
Well, good morning, everyone. All right, Tim, I have a question. So why did my family get the last table in the back?
They showed up late.
All right, Jackson, you heard that. You were late, buddy. Well, as I said, good morning. And as I always like to start, welcome to another great day in the city. And it really is truly a great day. I want to thank you, Tim, the Chamber, all the hard work you do throughout the year to putting on events like this and others, but more importantly, how you support the whole business community and the city in general. So thank you. Thank you to Bar Harbor Wealth Management for sponsoring this event today. Always great to have good corporate citizens like you. Really appreciate it. Always want to thank Concord TV. They are the people that keep us all in touch with one another in local government, although I am a little concerned that they have 2 cameras this morning. I know I've gained a little weight, but didn't think I needed 2 cameras, but that's okay. Anyway, I also want to make sure that on behalf of the City Council and the whole city, thank you to both Officer Christie and to Chief Keller. Chief, what year did you start? We started about the same time, didn't we? I feel like we grew up together. Anyways, they are but 2 great examples of 2 outstanding departments, and we are incredibly lucky to have great departments like our police and fire department. I mean, we have great city workers throughout, but you know, these 2 departments that keep us safe every day, we can't thank them enough for all that they do. So, thank you. Should I be nervous that Councilor Brown's keeping notes over here? Okay. So, I am pleased to tell you that the state of the city is strong and it is healthy. So, today, Tim asked Tom and I to talk about some projects that are going on and some of the other issues that the city is facing. So, we are going to take you through a fairly rapid slideshow, and then we'll leave room for questions following. So, since we started with public safety, we'll continue. See if this works. So while we're waiting, does anybody remember what the priority in last year's budget? The number 1 priority? An ambulance. Thank you, Counselor. So, we were successful as a city council in adding a new frontline ambulance to the fleet, and I am pleased to say that it is arrived ahead of schedule. We have moved to a staffing model that has 15 advanced emergency medical technicians. We took delivery of the new replacement ambulances that were placed in service last month. Another new replacement ambulance is scheduled to be ordered this month, and these are not inexpensive, by the way. Why am I telling you about this? Because the approximately 11,000 calls for service. Think about that, 11,000 calls for service. So when we talk about the fire department, the police department, they are very busy departments. Of those calls we receive, 74% of them are for emergency medical service calls. 2% are for fires, and the demands for service continue to change, and the fire department is leading that change to meet these demands. In our police department, we all know Liberty, right? It was either a picture of Liberty or Chief Osgood. I went with Liberty. By the way, all right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So, this is my friends at the police department. We're having a meeting. We're talking about outside dining the other day, and he doesn't know I'm going to do this. And so every time I went to speak, there was a horn that went off because we were in the council chambers. So I look out the window like, what the heck is going on? And there's the leadership at our police department all laughing rolling around the ground because these guys decided to hook up a horn to the back of John Thomas's car. So every time he touched the button, the horn would go off. So, thanks. We don't have outside dining. It's because these guys. So, unfortunately, Due to the trend of mass shootings in businesses and schools throughout the county, and our police department has been offering those active shooter training seminars and conducted 17 of those so far in the past 9 months. In addition, 35 building security assessments also have been taken. The police department continues to work closely with Riverbend to help assist individuals suffering mental and behavioral health crisis. Over the last 9 months, they have responded to 395 mental health related calls as compared to 262 the same period last year. The police department arrested 149 individuals on illegal drug-related charges over the last 9 months. One investigation involved the arrest related to the largest fentanyl drug seizure in the history of the department. Based on lethal doses, and it's good to see Tim and I don't know our doses, or we can actually say it, but based on lethal doses of 2 milligrams per dose, that was news I learned, more than 500,000 lethal doses of fentanyl were removed from the city of Concord. So, why is the picture of Liberty up there? Don't go yet.
We're moving you too fast?
Just, it was a little slow. So I want to just mention, sometimes we wonder why we have Liberty, but she's been instrumental in interacting with community members and members of the police department. She has been deployed in numerous scenes and locations where violent or traumatic events have occurred and helped relieve those who are suffering in effect by the incident. Liberty assists during interviews of traumatized children at the Merrimack County Advocacy Center, as well as making weekly appearances to the Concord Hospital. So we all love Liberty. Probably one of the biggest crises we are all facing throughout New Hampshire, and Concord is no different, is obviously our housing crisis. We have a lot of amazing organizations, many of which are represented here in this room, who are doing incredible work around housing, but the challenge is just daunting. So you can see here, I just want to point out a couple things by the slide, that from 2010 to 2019, we've added about 3%, or 574 units. You can notice that the median single-family home price has gone from $190 back in 2010 to $355,000 in 2023. I think the last point I really want to make about this is when you look at the vacancy rate, it's 0.4%. 0.4%. If you know anybody who has tried to find an apartment recently, and my son can speak to this, it is very, very difficult. When you look at what is a balanced market, it's about 5% vacancy rate. So it's very challenging times in housing. This is the Brookline Opportunities, 123 units of affordable workforce housing development, which will be constructed on Pembroke Road near Route 106. And the project received permits and funding, and the construction is expected to start this season. That's one example. Some of the other projects in the works include Catch Sheep Davis Road project, which is 48 units of affordable housing. The project received permits and funding, and construction is anticipated to start later this year. Is that right, Tom? Okay. The next one is Brady Sullivan's development at the former New Hampshire DOT Highway Garage. 80 units of market rate apartments. And the project received planning board approvals, subject to wrapping up loose ends, and work will start later this year. The last one on the slide is 103 Loudon Road. The project is by Dakota Partners, who's also developing 192 units of workforce housing on Langdon Avenue. The zoning board recently approved variances and permits of 98 units, and the planning board process will occur in the next coming months. You might recognize this one. This is the old New Hampshire Employment Security site on South Main Street. In June of 2022, the property was sold to a subsidiary of the John Flatley Company, and the property is being redeveloped into 85,000 square feet building featured 64 market rate apartments. The property will feature on-site parking and a pool, and the project will be completed in 2024. Once completed, approximately $10 million in new assessed value will be added and created to, this is the property was, as I said, was old employment security, which was not on the tax rolls, so that is an additional $10 million adds to tax rolls. So this is a huge success. This one is the Pennacook Landing development being constructed at 33 and 35 Canal Street at the former Allied Leather Tannery site. Phase 1 included the 34 units and was completed in 2020. The Phase 2, which is currently under construction, features 20 units, 18 of which will be affordable. Project is mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. Total development costs in Phase 2 is $6.2 million. That's about $310,000 per unit. The city supported the project with $500,000 in community development block grant for demolition, site work, and utility improvements, as well as $600,000 loan from a revolving loan fund program to support Phase 2. I'm going to spend a little time in Pennacook to talk about things because we also have Pennacook Landing. This is an aerial photo of the former Allied Leather Tannery Pennacook Landing property. Phase 2 is being developed at the corner of Crescent Street and Canal Street. Canal Street is the Riverfront Park, and the remainder of the site has been reserved for a new public Riverfront Park. The city's plans to develop the park at this location, it dates back to 1986 in the Pennacook Village Master Plan, and have been carried forward in all subsequent plans, including the 2004 Pennacook Tannery Visioning Charrette and the 2015 Pennacook Village Master Plan. In 2022, the city appropriated $110,000 for design and permitting, and that was paid for by impact fees. The firm of GPI has been selected to design the project, and the public participation occurred in June and December of 2022. The project is currently in the permitting phase. Interesting, we talk about Pennacook, and sometimes I think they feel left out, but I think it's important to note the investments we've made. We had, I think, if you look at the L shape of the building where Concord Hospital had a that's right. That's where the new Warren Street Architects has moved from downtown Concord to Pennacook. And I think if you look where the old Citizens Bank building down there, that's where Strings and Things is going in. So we're starting to see activity in downtown Pennacook as well. Takes us to the Canal Street Riverfront Park. In December 22, the final concept for the park, and there have been some minor updates. The amenities include reconstruction of the Canal Street Municipal Parking Lot, a large pavilion at the amphitheater at the concert, movies, community events, a fishing pier, and that's for Brent Todd so he can go fishing, and scenic overlooks, walking paths, as well as display of historical artifacts, in interpretive historical signage about Pennacook Village and the former Pennacook Mill. Streetscape improvements for the Canal Street are also proposed, including sidewalk improvements and a shared 10-foot wide path to facilitate future pedestrian and cycle connections to the Merrimack River Greenway Trail. The estimated cost is around $3 million, and it's subject to City Council appropriation and a receipt of the federal grant funds. Construction should begin in the fall of 2023, and the funding will be a mixture of the TIF bonds, parking fund bonds, general parking lot construction, and impact fees, as well as grant funds. The new park is also part of a larger network of current and proposed parks and recreation amenities for Pennacook Village, which are designed to foster and continued economic development and quality of life for the community. This is a graphic from 2015 Village Master Plan showing the current and future facilities, as well as the connections to the Merrimack River, Greenway Trail, and to the Village Central Business District, as well as Ralph Park, Merrimack Valley School District, the future Boys and Girls Club, the City Branch Library, and the Recreation Center. So there's a lot of activity going on, as you hopefully can see in downtown Pennacook. Not far away, we also have made tremendous investments in HOIT and Whitney Road. So in 2021, the city entered into a partnership with Interchange Development to construct public improvements to U.S. Route 4 and to Whitney Road to facilitate development of Merchants Way, a 43-acre site located at exit 17 on I-93. The total budget for the public improvements is $5.56 million, which is comprised of a construction of funds including $4.2 million for tax increment finance district bonds, $435,000 for impact fees, $230,000 for economic development reserve funds, and $652,000 for the contribution from the developers and the property owners. Phase 1 of Merchants Way included 80,000 square feet of Market Basket, 20,000 square foot home goods, and a 13,000 square foot liquor and wine outlet. The additional development recently completed and underway includes Wendy's Restaurant, 7,000-foot mixed-use building featuring Jersey Mike's and the Service Credit Union branch. Presently, the development has created roughly $17.5 million in new assessed value. And that's very important, as you know, to the Merrimack Valley School District. Due to the success of the project and others in Penwick Village in the TIF district, the city has begun to release captured assessed value tax revenue to support the city, the school district, the county, and the state. In FY 2023, $50,000 of captured property tax revenues were released, and we expect the trend to continue in the future. The improvements and the investments the city has made, including the following. And the work is substantially completed in October of 2022. Overhead highway sign is in the process and being completed now. You can see this picture, a new 2-lane roundabout at the intersection of Hoyt Road, Whitney Road, Old Boyce Road, and associated pedestrian and landscape improvements. A reconfiguration of the reconstruction of the southbound on-ramps from Hoyt Road onto I-93. Reconfiguration of the reconstruction of Hoyt Road and Hannah-Dustin Drive intersections. A new roundabout at the intersection of Whitney Road and Concord crossings at the primary driveway into the project. And various drainage and roadway improvements. So the city is usually involved with a lot of these projects to make these things happen, and I think you can see a tremendous success here. Related to the Exit 17 area, Monitor Way continues to express interest in developing a Concord Monitor property. And in March, the developer announced that they have secured an option for the additional 40 acres owned by the Concord Solid Waste Co-op. As such, the project now expanded to include 924 housing units, as well as significant quantities of commercial square footage. The developers are seeking a public-private partnership for the project. Asks include rezoning the site for mixed-use development, as well as a public-private partnership for construction of Whitney Road extension. The new roadway is more than 1.3 miles long, featuring 2 bridges, and has an estimated cost of $17.5 million, and the discussions are continuing. Staying on the east side, this is a project which we are all should be just standing up and applauding, but I'm really happy to report there's increased interest in the Concord Airport. Truly a gem, a real asset for the city. And in March 2023, the City Council approved a lease with the United Therapeutics Corporation, a publicly traded biotech company based in Maryland. UTC has offices throughout the East Coast, including Manchester, where they are manufacturing organs and not playing organs. This is a new 36,000 square foot hangar, which will house 4 to 5 corporate aircraft for UTC. Due to UTC's commitment and sustainability, the project will be constructed using Golem timber frame, and the lease has been signed and the construction is underway. And during the initial 20-year term, the lease will generate more than $1.7 million in revenue for the airport. And the property will also generate another $100,000 to $150,000 in property tax revenues annually. Interest remains strong in the airport, and we're optimistic that development projects will be coming forward in the not-too-distant future. I think this is going to be a spur of tremendous growth here in Concord, just from this one building. Staying on the east side again, and staying on the Heights, just a quick note about the Steeplegate Mall. There's a strong interest in the Steeplegate Mall, as well as the adjacent Regal Cinema properties. The city is excited and cautiously optimistic. Like all of you, we want to see the property redeveloped, and hopefully we'll have more good news for you in the coming soon. Wink, wink. Manchester Street, staying on the east side of the river. Development interest remains strong at the Manchester Street corridor. The new Grupponi Mazda is under construction. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful building. A new development at the former drive-in site, as well as Pitco on Integra Drive, also continue to move forward with respect to permitting process. Additionally, as part of the I-93 Bow Concord project, significant improvements are being proposed to the Old Turnpike Road, Manchester Street, Black Hill Road intersections. And speaking of road improvements, the state has included funding for the Manchester Street corridor project in its 10-year highway plan. The funds are programmed for 2027 and is, of course, subject to the City Council approval, and the city will begin laying the groundwork for the project, including property acquisition and utility improvements over the next couple of years. The estimated cost of the Manchester Street, Garvins Falls Airport Road is $8 million, of which $5 million will be funded by the state. So, with this activity on the Heights, this is an important piece to point out. When we talk about the Heights and the utilities, and a lot of this work was done many years ago, so the city is currently evaluating sewer and water capacity over in Loudon Road, Old Turnpike Road, and Manchester Street corridors. Many of the sewer mains and such in the area in the city were installed upwards of 70 years ago, and we anticipate the cost to potentially be over $20 million. In light of the important public health and economic development issues associated with the situation, will be a project that the city will be tackling in the near future, subject to City Council approval. But it's one of those things where we can invest in paving a road, and everybody goes, "Hey, you paved the road, thank you," and you can see things with parks and such, and you can say, "Hey, that's great," the city thing. When you start investing in infrastructure and nobody sees it, but it is critically important to making positive growth happening in our community. The I-93 Concord project. We met with DOT and designers over the winter, working our way north. We're in agreement regarding exit 12 design. At exit 13, the city has concerns over the northbound off-ramp improvements and the subsequent impact of the Old Turnpike Road intersection, particularly in light of the redevelopment plan for the Manchester Street corridor and the Terrell Park project. Exit 14, we have a northbound on-ramp and the importance of maintaining westbound traffic on the Loudon Road. The Loudon Road bridge design and the Merrimack River Greenway Trail project that I talked about at the Stickney Ave intersection and the redevelopment of those entire area, and of course the Store Street extension. And exit 15 is development upon the proper design of exit. It's dependent upon the proper design of exit 14 and should flow out of that. Before you see that work, you're going to see Loudon Road Bridge. So the Loudon Road Bridge is moving forward, and in May, the City Council will hold a public hearing to accept grant funds, as well as appropriate city matching funds to complete the design and permitting for the repair of the deteriorating bridge deck, as well as expanding the deck to accommodate a 14-foot wide shared path on the north side of the bridge for the Merrimack River Greenway Trail. The current estimated total cost for the project is $23.5 million. Of which 80% will be funded by the state and federal grants, and the construction is scheduled in the city for 2025. So when you're sitting on the bridge, traffic's going one way, and you're thinking, I really hate Jim Boulay and the city council right now. I want you to think, but hey, look, they went and got all that money from the state. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. It's only $23 million when we're sitting here. So there you go. Something to think about when you're sitting there. The Merrimack River Greenway Trail. The northern main line. In July 2021, the city entered into a PNS agreement with the Pan Am for a 5.6-mile segment of the northern main line between Horseshoe Pond Lane and the Kentucky River. In October of 2021, the state of New Hampshire exercised its right of first refusal as the line had been designated for potential future high-speed rail to connect to Boston and Montreal. Discussions are ongoing between the city and the state. Discussions have been complicated by the recent sale of Pan Am to CSX. The Merrimack River Green Trail and the city, we appropriated $128,000 for the design of a 4,000-foot section from Loudon Road heading south. Construction costs were originally estimated at $550,000, and an application was made to the Land Water Conservation Fund for a 50-50 grant. The Friends of the Merrimack River Green Trail have raised that match, and point of personal privilege, and thank Commissioner Reardon, who helped the county contribute $150,000, the max contribution, to help them find that match. They updated the estimated is now about $700,000, and we're looking to see how to make this project work. Shifting sides, we'll go to McKee Square. McKee Square is one of the next major improvement projects that will be looking at the multi-way intersection of West Broadway, South Clinton Streets, with honorable mention going to South Spring, Avon, and Downing. The considerable development and redevelopment in that area of the city has made rather challenging area to navigate, and this potential project will be discussed in May. The image that you see up here on the screen is a concept plan that was developed by the city back in 2012 for a roundabout at the intersection. And this is one of several potential possibilities which will be explored during the coming planning and design process. And the city looks forward to working with the neighborhood and the stakeholders as this project moves forward. I want to touch a little bit upon sustainability and its importance issue for all of us. The city has been working to do its part in the regard, and recent achievements include the LED streetlight replacement program, replaced 2,050 streetlights. We had a $285,448 grant from the Unitil. $262,000 zero-interest loan on the on-bill finance over the 5-year period. Reduce energy usage by 672 kilowatt hours annually, eliminated 552 tons per year of carbon emissions, and we saved $700,000 in energy costs over the next 10-year period. Also, with the Hall Street solar grant, the city will be installing a solar array at the Hall Street wastewater treatment plant, funded in the amount of $250,000 through the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services American Rescue Plan Act grant that will generate energy to help offset the plant's power needs. Electric aggregation plan, the city has approved assembling a work group to put together the electrical aggregation plan in accordance with RSA 53E to review the next steps regarding community power aggregation. Essex Hydro, the city entered into a long-term net metering agreement for a portion of the renewable energy generation. It received full approval by the PUC and is in place and operational. The city will receive roughly $100,000 a year, and the city will get clean energy credits. The contract covers 9 million kilowatt hours of usage a year and about 98% of the city government's annual needs, including electricity used by 2 of the biggest power users in water and wastewater treatment plants. A request for proposals for a solar array of the Old Turnpike Road landfill. It's a 20-acre site, and the closing date is May 10th, 2023. The city is also working to explore solar and EV charging opportunities for our facilities throughout. Last slide, and this is things we usually talk about at the beginning of each time we've spoken in the past, but I want to remind everybody the city continues to have excellent and strong financial management. We have a AA+ Standard & Poor's bond rating. We continue to receive our Certificate of Excellence financial reporting, thanks to Brian LeBrun and his team. We also are distinguished budgeting presentation, 8th year in a row. But one of the things that I'm probably most proud about is, having a balanced budget each year is something that we take pride in as a council, and we did have to borrow against ourselves, if you will. Our intention was to pay ourselves back in over 4 years. We actually achieved that in 1.5 years. So we used the balance of that, not increase the taxes in a couple of budgets ago, and now we're completely back to a balanced budget. We also, I think it's important to note that the city works with a lot of organizations within the community to provide grants, and I just thought it would be important for people to kind of think about some of the things we do. We worked with the Boys and Girls Club for a $750,000 grant, Christ the King Parish for a food pantry of $750,000, social service agencies $647,000, the Concord Coalition in Homelessness $500,000, the Crisis Center of Central New Hampshire $500,000, the wastewater treatment plant, the solar array is $250,000, and the New Hampshire DOT Bridge Aid is $1.96 million. So that hopefully was a very fast and furious kind of a list of some of the projects you're going to see and the topics that we're considering for projects going forth in this particular budget and in the future. So with that, I am going to stop. I'm going to invite Tom to come up, and we'd be glad to take any and all of your questions.
I'll throw a question out.
Sure.
Interstate 93, you covered that in some detail. Is there an estimated time when that project will break ground for the 93 the Loudon Road Bridge?
Yes. Let's talk loud. The anticipated, they're under design now. It's going to take, we're anticipating about 3 years for design, preliminary design, working back with the city and also working back with the city and then actually going through the permitting process. So right now, even though it's still early in the process, I'd say maybe 2026 through 2028, that's what we've been looking at in the past. Maybe they might be able to stick to that, but they do want to move, so which is good. So which is why the mayor mentioned the Loudon Road Bridge was so important, because that needs to happen and be in place before the I-93 work starts. So I think we're on track for that.
Cool.
This is why we work together, so that's what the ideal timeframe is. Keep in mind, the state's got to fund it, and who knows what's going to happen with the state budget. So, as that is a caveat.
Other questions while we've got these two gentlemen? Chris?
Sticking with the question of I-93, there's been a lot of discussion about the design, especially in the neighborhood of exit 14. And I know that the governor and council rejected a design that was put forward by the state at one point not too long ago. I'm a little fuzzy on where all that stands at this point. Can you fill us in on what's up with that neighborhood and the redesign of the highway?
One of the concerns that City Council had was that the original design by Department of Transportation had the northbound ramp from Loudon Road onto I-93 that was going to disappear. And essentially, all the traffic would be funneled down towards Fort Eddy Road. And then, so the City Council said we'd like at least one or a portion of that ramp. So the traffic that would be heading west would still be able to get onto I-93 from there. Another concern was should the Stickney Avenue itself disappear? Is that really necessary to have that there? The conclusion was yes, to keep that there. And then as it ties down back into Loudon Road, should it be a right-in, right-out only, on Loudon Road coming into there and then coming back off? And the conclusion was, well, we really need to keep the access available to the Ralph Pill side of the road, so to keep that as a full access point. And that would be, of course, very useful for Concord Trailways to be able to get in and out efficiently. So we had those two pieces. And then, of course, there was 6 or 7 different concepts for how the Merrimack River Greenway Trail would actually work through that area. City Council requested and it was approved, so to speak, that the Merrimack Greenway Trail section through this whole area would be designed, permitted, approved, and built by the Department of Transportation. It's a multi-million-dollar get, so to speak, for the city to not have to construct that piece itself and have it all done as part of the I-93 project. But there was 6 or 7 different concepts of how that would work, and so the City Council, working with neighborhood groups, came down to 3 different options, and that is, we're waiting to see back on what those 3 options or a marrying of some of those options together might look like. So that's what when I say they're going to come back to the city about looking at these things. There's still a long way to go with the design itself.
Yeah.
Did that help?
I think that's important to emphasize is that we're still the early part of the process. DOT and their consultant are taking the comments by the city. They're going to go back, put together a draft, and then they'll come back to us for comments and review. So if we don't like it, we have still plenty of time to talk about it.
David. Mayor, you said you opened up with there's a lot of great things going on in Concord, and I think most of us agree with that. Thank you for your leadership. Unfortunately, though, we got hit with losing some major employers, including losing Concord Group Insurance. And I was just curious the impact of the messaging to the area about Concord being the home to major employers and even home bases for larger companies.
Well, I think you're right. There was a loss, but with loss there comes opportunity. And if you listen to what I said about the airport and the impact that the new United Therapeutics is coming, I think that you're going to see tremendous spin-off and growth in that area. So where one door closes, I think you're going to find a lot more open. And since you're here, you brought the question. Just look what you've done to South Main Street. You took an area that was kind of tired and old, and by making some changes to some of your buildings down there, you have completely revitalized that whole south end. And I anticipate, with your leadership, those properties that you own, how's this for putting somebody in the spot, huh? But I mean, the opportunity that you have down there, and the energy and the love that you have for this community, I'm really looking forward and excited for that whole south end that you're going to be a big part of.
And we're also grateful for Feathered Friend, David, so don't forget that.
I was trying to say that without saying it, but
It's okay.
maybe I focused too much on the smoke show.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Question on the development or proposed development between Concord Monitor and Whitney Ave. So I kind of live in that area, and I'm concerned about which way the traffic flow would be, because the Concord Monitor area is already so congested. So that's my question.
So the city council has the same concern, because if you actually make that connection, that's about an 8,000-foot section of road that would have to be added. So would folks still use Fisherville Road to Village Street and then come off on Canal Street towards 17? Or when they start cutting down Sewell's Falls Road and then cut through that section, right, and then tie into 17. So you could, and then same issue with traffic coming from Mountain Road. So as part of that whole analysis, when the city council has discussed this, they've been very strong in saying we need to have a solution, Mr. Developer, or Mrs. Developer, whoever it is, you need to have a solution of how the traffic is going to work here, and we want to see what the impacts are going to be. So you're exactly right, because I think that could be a whole shift in traffic that, as you know, when 93 gets backed up, people use Fisherville Road, use Route 3 as the alternative to 93, which before 93 built, it was the 93. So the council's very cognizant of that.
I think you're also going to see a lot more discussion in that area. We have what one developer's put forward, but I think there are other developers that are interested in that particular area. That particular property has a rail line that runs along it, which is very desirable for a potential manufacturer as well. So I think you're going to see a lot more discussion activity before anything happens. You're all the same people who stop me on the street and yell at me about all kinds of things, and now
You're on TV now.
Yeah, so regarding the legislative garage on Stores Ave, are there any plans to update that, remove it, or revitalize it?
So on Tuesday of this week, the Senate held a hearing of a House bill that was passed by the House, went to the Senate. They had a hearing. It's still pending before the Finance Committee of the Senate. It appropriates the dollars to demo the Store Street state parking garage. They do have, I believe, air rights, but I don't think they're going to keep them, obviously. Their goal is to build a new garage where the current Department of Justice is, and that garage is approximately, I want to say, about a 400 space garage. And as you can imagine, think about when we built the garage, the parking garage down on Store Street, the price has more than doubled to build a garage like that. And so they're looking at those costs. They did include an amendment that I asked them to consider. There's a committee looking at the garage. I did ask for a city representative to be included in that, and they agreed to do that. The Senate President agreed, because I think that is going to be a really important piece in our downtown institutional zone, if you will, that area. And we just can't have any type of garage. I mean, it has to look good. I think you also have to be part of the discussion when it comes to the impact of traffic. When you think about the legislature coming to the city, particularly on session days, we have all 400 members of the House and 24 members of the Senate, and they're all converging about the same time because they're trying to get to their respective caucuses at 9 o'clock. That's a lot of traffic to put in a very condensed area all at once.
Just a follow-up to that question, the Store Street garage, is the state responsible for what happens to that if they move to a new location, or does the city have responsibility there?
The state is actually appropriated. They always tell me it's my responsibility, but I tell them it's theirs. But they've appropriated money for the demolition, and they'll be doing the demo.
And I think the city has been anticipating this for a number of years, which is why when we were working with property that's developed on Store Street now, you can see it moving closer to the street versus being back. This will give us a brand new opportunity to redevelop all that property, take a picture of the sun just getting in there, and then actually when we extend Store Street over to Constitution, that actually is going to dramatically improve access all in and around that area and viability of redevelopment. So there's a whole economic flow of these things too.
Are there plans to demo the garage before the new one is built? Does that just depend on funding? And
I think they're not going to demo what they have now until they build it.
just thinking 400 is supposed to Concord. So.
Yeah, the existing garage is 205, 200, 205.
Yeah.
I see a Matt statement. And the new one would be, say, 400 to 450.
Okay.
So, the idea would be that you'd have, one of the concerns council has had is, do we have enough parking on the north end of Main Street? This would add an extra 200 spots available to public, and not because public will be able to park in the garage, but because the state and employees will not be parking on the street or in the city garage. So I think it's a big advantage here if it's done right.
Anybody have any idea how many, ever seen those bag meters the legislature puts in? Have you seen those? How many do you think we have? Anybody got a guess? 200. Feels like 200.
Yeah.
It's actually 63 bag meters we have. And what drives me just is that you look at the schedule of the legislature and there's nothing going on, but yet they still bag all 63. So, my friends at the legislature.
Oh, one more, Debbie?
I'll ask a question about recreational facilities. I love the trail system in Concord and all the different ways we can get outside and stay healthy. Memorial Field, I was interested in an article in yesterday's paper, but there wasn't a lot of detail there. And, we're looking at maybe 10 years of talking about it and thinking about it, or can you shed any more light on it than the paper did?
So, thank you for that question. So I want everybody to look at my friends over here, and I want everybody to say thank you to the school district. So when you look at Memorial Field, about 80 to 85% of the usage is Concord High School. And that's great, and they should. It's a beautiful facility, the location and easy access for a lot of the kids, and we should have those opportunities. But it's always been the city responsibility because it's a city park. The school district has been incredibly great partners, and I can't thank them enough for their leadership, and that they have realized that they would like to have a stake in the process as well. And they have stood up and said, we will financially participate with you. So I think the goal is to, anybody been over lately? Been there lately? It's it's a wetland. It's a low point in the area. You've got stands that desperately need to be repaired. They're not really ADA acceptable in my opinion. You don't have a field that you can really play soccer on under the lights. You don't have a field you can play field hockey on, across. It's really reserved just for football, and I think that with the appropriate size field, you can get a much better usage. I think you can create some gender equity and bring the field hockey team back to Memorial Field where they belong. And so I think there's tremendous opportunity in a neighborhood that already kind of accepts them being there. But the overall, so the key message there was thank you to the school district, because I think this is one of those opportunities where if people don't think the school district and the city work together, this is just another example of where we really do work very well together. But recreation is going to be a big topic, I think, in this next year's budget. We're looking at things like the Monkey Around Playground, Keach Park, Memorial Field. We talked about the park in Canal Street in Pennacook. So there's going to be a great deal of discussion around recreation, I think, this year.
rightfully so. Well, it's okay to end a few minutes early. It's
Not
just not
okay to end
getting
late,
late,
so
so
I think there are no more questions. I want to thank Mayor Boulay and City Manager Thomas Spell for another thorough presentation. Thank you so much. Also, again, congratulations to Battalion Chief Derek Keller and to Officer Christie for their recognition, and a special thanks again to Bar Harbor Wealth Management for sponsoring today's event, and to you all for coming out. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.